Okay, let's talk about your lab number three today. So your lab number three is on multitasking. So today we're gonna kind of briefly discuss on what is multitasking and how do you study them as a construct. Okay, so multitask, when you kind of think about multitasking, it's a really broad concept in psychology, but it really has some like real life relevance to it. So for the example that you have is like if you were driving while you were texting, or if you were trying to cross the street while talking on the phone, etc., etc. And now there are two main types of multitasking. One is that well, is when you're not carrying out the task simultaneously. So this is something that you see a lot, like secretary or administrative assistants do. They would answer the phone, and then right after that, they will maybe go to scheduling your appointment, and then after that, they will maybe dealing with billings, and after that, they're probably busy with like ordering lunch, and after that they're doing they're inputting some data on the spreadsheet and stuff like that. So these are the type of multitasking when a person is not doing something at the same time. And then so the other one is the other type of multitasking is when when the person is carrying out the task simultaneously, such as while you are driving and texting, which I don't recommend doing, of course, because that's illegal. And then, or if you are, let's say, um, doing the homework and trying to listening to the lecture at the same time, which I also don't recommend doing because you're not going to do a very good job. Now, one of the things when it comes to the second type, when you're carrying out the task simultaneously, is that if you are well trained, then you can actually become pretty good at it. Now, this paper and also your lab number three, which is um, based on this reading on your on this paper, is that they were not dealing with the second type of multitasking when you are carrying out tasks simultaneously, but it's dealing with the first one when you need to rapidly switching the type of task that you're doing. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Now, the way that you can do the multitask, there is actually a function that is involved by your frontal lobe, specifically the prefrontal lobe, and this is the process that's called executive function. So what is it? So it now cognitive neuroscience basically proposed that there is a special set of brain function with multitasking, and that's what executive function is called. And what it is that it deals with the planning of the task, switching of the task, scheduling of the task, and also inhibiting the irrelevant task. And then there's a special name called the cognitive monitoring. So basically, what you are doing when you are dealing with the executive functioning, you are trying to weigh out what is the most urgent and what needs to be dealt with right at this moment, and then therefore you can kind of handle this first, and then so you're not dealing with something that is going to take a lot of time and that is irrelevant. Um, so there is a basic aspect when it comes to executive functioning. So the brain areas, as I said, that is involved with executive function is prefrontal cortices. And now it multiple aspect with executive function has to do with various areas of the prefrontal cortex. For instance, the places when you are dealing with inhibition of relevant tasks is this area called the anterior cingulate cortex, as opposed to when you are planning the sequence of tasks, when you are planning the relevance of the task, this is more dealing with the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex as well as this area called the motor planning areas. So it really depends on what aspect of the executive function that you are dealing with, but there are multiple areas of the brain that are really involved. Now, so this is basically things that you need to kind of think about what it is when you are writing your introduction section. Now, what is the purpose and the hypothesis of the current study? So so several things we want to see. So we wanted to see whether the cognitive load is more costly when subjects need to rapidly alternate tasks. So this is basically what we're talking about when we are dealing with the first type of the multitasking, when you need to rapidly switch the type of task, okay? And so we're going to look at when there is mixing of the tasks, we need to rapidly switch the sets, okay, comparing to when the task is pure. So basically what we are thinking that the reaction time differences between the pure task versus the mixed task, this is called the mixing cost, okay? So what we are hypothesizing here is that when the task is pure, the cognitive load that is going to take on the subject is going to be less, which is going to cause the reaction time to be also shorter. And alternatively, when the task is mixed, which requires a person to rapidly alternate the task type, and then what happens is that then this task is going to become more difficult, and then therefore the cognitive load is going to be more, and then this is going to cause the reaction time to go up, which means that reaction time is going to be slower, okay? Now, the article also speaks about something else called the switching cost. So what's the switching cost? Well, the switching cost is within the mixed block itself. Mixed block just means that within this entire session, you are asked to switch between task A and task B. Okay. So what happens that within this mixing of this task, then people can really slow down, particularly on the trials that immediately follow a task switch. Okay, so the example that we're giving you here is, the so you can see that you have task A followed by task A followed by task A, and then but followed by task B. Okay, so this B in red, what you are seeing is that this is the trial that immediately follow a task switch. Okay, and you can see that this second B here, that this is not the trial that immediately follows a task switch. So the reaction time on the second B would be the task a repeated trial within the mixing trials. Okay, now when you come to this A in red, this first A in red that we're seeing, this comes after two consecutive Bs, right? So this is going to be another switch of tasks. So now you are switching from um, task B back to task A, right? And then what happened is that this is another trial that immediately follows a task switch. So when you look at these trials of that in red, which are the switching. Okay, so what happened is that you're gonna see these tasks, these trials, the reaction time is going to be more, like meaning longer. Okay, which means that even within the mixed blocks, there are going to be cost in terms of the reaction time, which means that there is a slowdown, particularly on trials that immediately follow a task switch. Okay, but the ones that are following, so like all the ones that you see in black, no, so like the first 3A, or let's say like the second B, or the second A, or these second and third B that follows, that is not part of this task switch. These are the repeated trials within the mixed blocks. Okay, so what happened is that the second hypothesis of this paper is basically thinking that there is going to be a switching cost within the mixed blocks. So when you kind of think about it, your paper here actually have two hypotheses, okay? So what we're describing here is the second hypothesis, and then what we're describing in the previous slide is the first hypothesis. Okay. Okay, so what are the methods? Okay, so the participants, there is n of 10 Queens College Psychology students enrolled in Psych 213 class. Okay, so we all have normal to corrected to normal vision, and then the age range is from 18 to 50. Okay, now the design of this study is a true experiment, and this is a repeated measure design, just like your second lab. And then your first independent variable, so your independent variable really is the type of task. There are with two levels. There is pure and mixed. Okay. And cost is when you kind of think about it, it's really not its own level, but the cost later on you'll see that it really is the difference between the pure and the mixed. Okay. And then okay, and then the dependent variable in this case is the reaction time. Okay, and then the apparatus and the material is basically exactly the same as your lab number 2, so you can just copy and paste that from your lab number 2. That's fine. Okay, so the procedures, when you kind of think about it, you want to describe what you were instructed to do. So there was a blackboard, an instruction sheet that was posted on Blackboard, and you were instructed to go to the website, right? And then once you get to the website, you want to go on and say that what were you instructed to click, and then on the cursor, and then what happens. You know, it goes to kind of tells you what the task is about, and then tells you which keys to press, right? And then and after it gave you the instruction on the website, then they gave you a trial on the practice, right? And then so the trial, what were the trials? So there was one that was shape only, right? That's a pure trial. Another one that was filling only, right? So that's the second pure trial. And then after that, you have a mixed trial when you are instructed to, based on where the target appears, you have to press B or N based on whether you are involved in shape or you are involved in filling tasks, right? Okay, so that was all the practice trial. And then after that, then you have the real trials, okay? So now how many trials are there? Well, you should go back and to the website and really count them to really be sure, okay? Okay, and then after you were done, you were requested to report the results to the experimenter, okay, which is me in this case. And then you can discuss how we conducted the results with Microsoft Excel and astatsa.com. I think I'll show you in both SPSS and ASTATS-A. I actually don't have. I tried to go on Stats 8, but then it hasn't worked. I mean, I'll try it again. Hopefully, it works. Okay. Now, when it comes to the results, so this is basically very similar to when you are writing your second lab. So you want to start with the descriptive stats, which is the mean and standard deviation, and then the second thing. So this is an example that I'm giving you, right? So you basically want to say that the mean reaction time for the pure and mixed sessions were blah, 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 blah. And then you want to put in parentheses the standard deviation equals whatever number it is. And then, and then you want to refer this to table 1 and figure 1, okay? And then the second thing you want to do after you're done with reporting all the descriptive stats, then you want to report the inferential stats. Okay, so in this case, it's probably going to be the t-test. Okay, and so the example that you want to do is you want to say that there was a statistical significance with the type of trials on the reaction time, blah 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 blah, and so forth. Okay. So in the lab, you will have 2 tables and 2 figures, okay? And then so the table 1 is going to be the reaction time for the type of session, which when you're just looking at it is the pure versus the mixed. And figure 1 is the bar graph of the reaction as a function of the session type. So in other words, again, pure versus mixed. Okay, and the table 2 is the reaction time for the type of trial within the mixed session. Okay, which is task switching versus task repeat. And then the figure 2 is the bar graph on the reaction time as a function of the task type. So in other words, the task switching versus the task repeated. And then so all of these data are going to be under lab number 3 stuff, okay? Okay, so let's calculate the data. Okay, so if you were to go to your lab number 3, well, so you go to content and then you go to lab number 3 stuff, and then you just download this data, okay? So the way that data are organized here is you see that here you have in participant 1 through 10, and then so these are the reaction times in the pure trials, and here is the reaction time for the mixed trials, and here are the mixing costs. All right, now within the mixed sessions, the mixed block, here are the task repeated trials, and then here are the task switching trials. Okay, and this is the task switching cost. Okay, so what we'll need to do is, well, let's first calculate out the mean, the standard deviation, the standard error of the mean, okay? Now before we do that, let's add another, and that is the number of participants, okay? So, so average, parentheses, and then you just highlight these. This is something you guys should know how to do it, okay? And then the standard deviation, and highlight this, parentheses, enter, equals count. So this is the number of n, number of people in here. Okay. And then to calculate the standard error of the mean, you type in equal standard deviation, okay, divided by the square root of the people, in this case, 10. Okay, so after you're done with this, you just go to here, Control C and Control V, and then also here Control C, Control V. Okay, and that's it. That's how we calculate out the mean standard deviation, the number, and the standard error of the mean. All right, now let's take a look at this and let's format this, and let's make this just 2 decimal places. Okay, so that's easier to view. So the number of people, you don't need that. Okay, so 10. So we're good. Now let's take a look to see how we should organize this data. Okay, and how we would want to actually graph this out. Okay, so the way that you want to graph this out for your first figure is to highlight the mean here, okay, and then hold on to the control button and then highlight pure trials, mixed trials, and mixing cost. And then go to insert, go to here, to the column, yep. And so I'm gonna put this on the bottom, okay, because that's the first graph. Okay, and now I'm just gonna make this look slightly bigger. So I think 14 is good. And then this 14 is also good. And then I'm gonna format this I'm gonna go to the number and I'm gonna say no decimal places. Okay, and now then you go to delete this basically, and then you go to here and you format the axis, and then you can say I want to have a color for this, because I think the original the default setting of that is that the color is uh like white, which I know is really stupid. And you do the same thing for this and just change this to black. Okay, so all right, we're good. And then, so what should the title be? Well, the title should be reaction time. Well, there are two ways to do this. You either say the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable, or you say the function, or you can say like the dependent variable is a function of the independent variable. Okay, so today we're gonna write like the second way. Okay, so we're gonna say reaction time as a function of trial type. Okay, and then let's insert, well, we need to insert the actual graph, the design. Okay, so you go to the add chart elements, go to the axis title, and then let's do the x-axis first. Okay, so these are the type trial type. So type of trial, with trial type, whichever you want. Sorry, let's make this, the font should be the same. Okay. Okay. All right, and over here on the x-axis, what do we need to do? Well, we need to do exactly the same thing. Wait, go to chart design and then go to here and then go to axis titles and then go to the primary vertical axis. So this would be reaction time, and then this is milliseconds. And let me just fix this to 14. So that looks good. Okay. And then this, okay, so now we are not done yet. What are we missing? Well, we're missing, why did we calculate out the SEM? Well, because we need to put the error bars, right? So you click on these and that's going to highlight all the trials. You can see that this is highlighted, this is highlighted, and this is highlighted. And then just go to plus, go to error bars, and then go to more options, go to custom, specify value, positive error values, this, highlight that, okay. Negative error values, highlight this, okay. And then click OK. All right, now this is a little bit hard to see, so I would actually change the fill to this, and then I'll change the outline to, let's say, something else. Let's say black. That's fine. Okay, so yeah, basically that's it. Okay, so that's the first one, and this one is a little hard to see as well. So something that I think that's good to include is to include like the tick marks. You can either have inside, outside, or cross. It doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna choose cross for this. Okay, so that's your first figure that you need to do. Now let's do your second figure. Okay, and your second figure is going to be essentially the same. So you can do it just like this one. So I'll show you both ways to do it. So so the long way to do it is exactly the same as what you did as before. You highlight the mean, and then you highlight the type that, well, basically like the title here, and then you go to insert this. Okay, so we're good. And you just want to basically fix it like how you fix the previous ones. So you click on this, then make it like this, and then here you just say reaction time as a function of trial type, then mix block, right? Okay. Okay, but are we, well, we're very far from done yet. So let's fix the formatting axis. Go to number and then click 0 here. Oh, that's good. And then let's fix the font. I think we used 14 before. Let's use 14 here. 14. So this is 14. So that's good. Now let's fix the axis. And so that would be okay. And then so black. That's good. All right. Now let's add in the axis title. So axis title for the vertical. So this would be exactly the same thing, reaction time, parentheses, milliseconds, or you can have it as ms. Either way is fine, okay? Yeah, let's change to ms. It's easier to see ms, okay? Oh crap. Okay, yeah, we're good. And then go to, sorry, then go to the tick marks, major type, cross, okay? And then, okay, now let's fix the x-axis title here. That's type of trial. Okay, let's just make this also font 14. That looks good. Okay, now that just put in the error bars, plus here, error bars, here, more options, and then go to, oh, sorry, I think it's this one. Go to custom, specify value, highlight this, and then highlight this again, and then click OK. And I'm just gonna fix the fill and also the outline. Yeah, I think that's it. Now, one thing I want to mention is that you can see that the major demarcation here is like every 500 milliseconds. So here you want to be consistent as well. So we'll format this and we'll make this. So right now you can see that the unit here is every 200, right? So you just want to change this to 500. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so that's what you would need to provide in your number 1, number 2. Okay, so now this is a very tedious way of, well, basically making your second graph, right? So is there's like a faster way to make the graph? What there is, you can copy and paste this, okay? And you're like, but it looks exactly like the first graph. How do I fix it? Well, there's a way to fix it. In You can highlight this and you can go to select data, okay, and then you can edit this. Right now, what is being highlighted is this, okay. So the second one you can highlight. Say I want to highlight these instead. And now the legend ones that you can, so for this series you can go to edit, and now it's asking you what are the values here for the series. Right now these are the ones that are being highlighted, right? And then you say I want these instead. Okay, click OK, click OK, right? And then you can see that this switched to what we're having look exactly like this. And then so the only thing you need to change is really the error bar. So you want to go to you want a custom value, because you can see that the error bar is looking at this wrong, well, not the wrong one, is linking to the previous one. So you just want to fix it to the correct error bars, and that's it. Okay, and now the thing that you need to go back, which does not automatically fix it for you, is going to be the fill as well as the outline. Okay, so this is just a quicker way of doing. Now, the thing you need to change is, of course, your title. So reaction time is a function of trial type, but then within. Okay, so these are both of the ways that that you can pretty much make your figure one. So uh, the first method I show you is the long way, and the second method that I show you is the easy way. Well, it's the shortcut. Okay, both works. All right. Okay. I think this should. Oh, no. Now the second thing, all right, so we're done with making the graph for your figure number 1 and 2. So let's do the statistics. Okay, so go to the cuny.edu on the virtual desktop. Okay, and then go to the SPSS. Oh, what is my password? Okay, so this is exactly the same password that you would use to get into the Blackboard. So it's just gonna take a while. So just bear with me. Okay, so go to the IBM SPSS Statistics 25. Um, Whenever it starts to decide to start. Okay, it's gonna take a while. Okay, it's here. Okay, I only need one of them, so I'm gonna close it. Okay, so let's go to the variable view first. Okay, so the variable view that you want to type in, because the way that this is done, this is a within group design, right? So you want to type in, for like the first one, you want to say that this is a pure trial. And the one after that is gonna be the mixed trial, okay? All right, decimals, zero decimals, label values, you don't need that. You don't need it at all. And then just go to the data view, okay? I'm just gonna make this a little bit bigger. Okay, now then go to your lab number 3 data, just the data itself, okay? Hold on a second. All right, so the pure trials, just copy these and then paste them onto here, and you do the same thing for the mixed trials. Okay, and then what do you do next? Well, the next thing you do is go to analyze, compare means. Okay, now there are various type of t-tests, right? So the one that we want to do is the pair samples t-test, because it's a repeat and measure design, right? So then what you want to load in is both of these. Okay, and that's it. Oh wait, let me see options. Okay, continue options, test. All right, so let's take a look at these data. So the t-test, make it bigger. Oh, come on. I can make this bigger. This is so small. Okay, anyway, so these are the data that it's giving us. Okay, and so the t that we get is negative 10.22. Well, it depends on the direction. So you can report them as either 10.22 or negative 10.22, because it just really depends on the direction in which that we are looking. Okay, so the degree of freedom is 9, and then the p-value here is 0.00. Which in this case really just means that it's a very highly significant result. It's a very small p-value. All right, so the way that you want to report the data are here. So we did that for you. Okay, so that's the first set of the t-test. So we found that there's a significant difference between the pure trial and the mixed trials, in which that, well, the pure trials are a lot faster compared to the mixed trials, right? Okay, now let's take a look at the second piece of data. Okay, so I'm just gonna close this. I'm not gonna save it. So let's go back to the variable view. Now let's change these to the repeat task trials, right? And then the other one is the switching task, right? Switching task, okay? And the data view, you need to delete this, and because you need, so all the cases are now removed, and now you just need to go back to over here. So these are the task repeat trials, and then you can just highlight both of these, copy, and then paste them onto here. So that's good. And then you just basically do exactly the same thing as what you did before. Go to analyze, compare means, go to paired sample t-test, highlight both of these. So you click on the shift to highlight both of them and you load them. So let me just take this out. We don't need that. Okay, so repeat versus switch. Okay, so anything options in there? Yep, nope, nothing we can do there. And just click OK. And then you'll see that it tells you that the repeat task has this mean, and the switch task has this mean, and this is the number of people that are in that perform the task. And then so that's the standard deviation, the standard error of the mean, blah, blah, blah. And then now go down to the pair t-test. Okay, so it tells you what the t is. That's the most important number you want to give. So in this case, this is the negative 9.75. So you can report them as 9.76. So round to the hundredths place. And then the degree of freedom is 9 and the significance is 0.00. So this is also a highly significant result. Okay, so this is something that you're going to need to put in your results section. Okay, so I think that's about it in terms of the statistics. Now there are other things that you can do to, I'll exit out of this first, and then I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so let me exit out of this. I don't need to save this data. Now, what happens if you cannot get the virtual desktop from CUNY to work? Well, there's another way you can do it. So very similar to very similar to SPSS, your Excel actually can do t-test for you as well. Okay, now how do you do this? So what happened here is I created another spreadsheet by just copying and paste from your spreadsheet one. So this way there are no graphs to kind of interfere. So let me just kind of show you how you can do this. Now, look to see if you have over here something called the data analysis that are there. Now, chances are you don't, and that's because you have to manually enable it in your Excel data analysis pack. So how do you do that? You go to File, and you go down to Options, and then down to the options, you want to go to Add-ins. Okay. Now you can go to the thing that says Excel add-ins. Okay, and then click Go, and then you'll see that you want to check this. Okay, so just check Analysis Tool Pack and then click OK. And now, I mean, because I did it already, but if you didn't have it before, you see that this data analysis under this analysis pack is going to appear. Okay, so how do we do the t-test from Excel? So let's click on this, and under data analysis, you have, you see there are a lot of things that you can do. So the thing that we want to do is we want to use t-test pair to sample for means, okay, and click OK. So it's going to ask you to input the data range for your variable 1. So you want to click on this, and you're going to click select these pure trials, okay? And then it's going to ask, well, where's the variable range for data 2? And you can click on this, and you click the mixed trials, and then you do that, okay? Okay, so the next thing you want to do, hypothesize mean difference. Well, we don't care about that. Okay, so you just want to click the alpha. Okay, now the next thing what it's asking you to do is you want the alpha range. That's what that I mean, that the output range. So you just want to say where do you want the output range to be. So let's say here, okay. All right, and click OK. And then you can see that these data, basically it tells you exactly the outcome for that. This is what we're basically seeing. Okay, so that's the output data for the first, that's a little hard to see. So that's the output data for the first, sorry. Okay, so let's take a look at this. The mean, blah, 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 that we looked at this already, the variance, the observations. Okay, so it even does the Pearson correlation for you. Okay, so, but we don't really care about it. The only three things we really care is the degree of freedom, which is 9, okay? The T value, which like what we said before is negative 10.22. So you can see that SPSS and Excel would give us exactly the same number, okay? Now, what is the P? The p-value? Well, it gives you two of them, and they give you either the one tail result or the two tail result. Okay, so so either way, what we are seeing is, well, the one tail result is it's a very significant effect. So you can see that this is e minus 0.06, which means that this is, you have to move the decimal of this to 6 places to the left. Okay, and in the same thing for a two tail. So either way, this the p is less than 0.001. So this is a very highly significant data. Okay, so that's the first one. Now let's do our second one. Okay, and we just basically do exactly the same thing as what we did before. Let's go back to let's go back to data. Let's go to data analysis again. Let's click on this. Okay. All right, variable, I want this time to be the task repeat. All right, and then the second one, I want this one to be the task switching trials. All right, and blah, 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 blah. So we're good with this. Output range, well, the output range I want this time is to start here. Click OK, and I'm just going to highlight this in a different color. Oh, damn it. A different color this time in pink. Okay. All right, now let's take a look at them. So the okay, so the degree of freedom is 9. The t-stat, the t-value is negative 9.755. So it's exactly the same number as what you saw in SPSS. And the p-values, it doesn't really matter if it's one tail or two tails. It's a very big number. Sorry, it's a very small number. Sorry, I spoke too fast. And then so it's a very small number. So this is 2.19, okay, with the decimal moved to the left like 6 times. So we're looking at 0.0000219 or something. Okay, so either way, the p-value is less than 0.001, which is a very good p-value. That is so basically that tells us that there is a significant difference between the task repeat trial versus the task switching trials. All right, so I think that's it for me to kind of show you how to do the T statistics on Excel. Okay, so the last thing, what do you do on the discussion? Okay, so the discussion is going to be about 3 paragraphs. So the first paragraph, you want to summarize the results of the current study without reporting the numbers. So you want to state what is the interpretation of the results. All right, and this, so in this case, you want to say something that between the type of task, uh, which just kind of comparing the pure trials versus the mixing trials, there were significant differences in which that the pure trials are much faster compared to the mixing trials. Okay, and then you should also kind of report that there is a significant cost when it comes to the reaction time when you are, well, when a participant is involving the task switching. Well, sorry, the mixing of the trials. Okay, and then so that's the first one. And the second thing you want to mention is that there is, even within the mixing type of trials, within the entire block, that's all mixing of the trials, the task switching versus the task repeat are also different. Okay, in which the task repeat trials are much faster compared to the task switching trials. Because why is that? Because when you need to switch from one of the tasks to another task, you need kind of to rapidly switch within, even within the session, there is a significant amount of the cognitive task that needs to be involved. So when you need to switch from one mode to another, you need to kind of think about, okay, what task am I supposed to do at this moment, and that costs the reaction time because your brain need time to process those kind of data that's incoming to your sensory modalities and stuff like that. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. The second paragraph, you want to compare with previously published study. So in this case, the paper that I gave you, so you want to kind of say that what were the results consistent or were they not consistent? Now, the thing that I want to bring up is that the paper that I gave you guys, they're looking at whether or not male are and females are different when it comes to the multitasking ranges. Now, don't so the paper that what they were trying to do is they were trying to look at if there's a gender effect, but we're not doing that. We're just trying to look at whether or not the pure task versus the mixing task and also the switching task versus the repeated task, are there any cost mentally to on the cognitive load, right? So these are the things that you want to say. I mean, within the original study, they still look at that regardless of gender. Okay, so you can still look to see whether or not our data were comparable, are they the same with the previous published studies. Okay, and then the third paragraph you want to talk about is suggest a future direction for future studies. So for instance, now we did not look at age, for instance. We did not look at gender, so we don't really know if like the original data are reproducible. So we don't know that. So that's something you can definitely suggest. Another thing that you can suggest are things like, we so for instance, the real trial, as you guys know, is very long, and then especially when you get to like the very uh, end, you're like, oh my god, when does it need? When does it end, right? So this feels like this trial is never ending, and then so there is definitely this factor of fatigue versus fresh um, brain power. Okay, so these are all the things that you can suggest for future studies. And so maybe looking for a study that looks at the fatigue effect during cognitive tasks. So these are things that you can look for. And definitely go onto PsycInfo or Psych articles to look for these kind of papers that you can do. Okay, and then the last thing you want to do is you want to provide like an ending that summarizes the whole conclusion of the paper. Okay, and references. So you'll need at least 3 references for this lab report, just like your second lab. But I gave you guys one already, so this includes the original study, which means that you only need to find 2 more references for this lab report. And I think that a good places to really start is to look at uh, the paper that I give you guys and see which studies do they cite also. Okay, so that's a tip. And so this way you don't have to go and find out a bunch of stuff that you think are irrelevant, that. So this is a good method for you to look at other people's writing and see what references did they cite. Okay, and of course when you cite them you need to put them in APA style. Okay, and I think that concludes today's lecture, and have fun writing them.